If you're into self-help, you've probably seen this diagram. It's supposed to represent how to find your Ikigai, the Japanese word for life purpose or for your reason for being. You just find the overlap between what you're good at, what you love, what the world needs, and what you can get paid for. Once you've found that overlap, boom, you're self-actualized, you can live your life to the fullest. How simple. But wait, if we dig a little deeper, things start to get suspicious. Like, where does this Venn diagram even come from? Did some great Japanese philosopher draw it? Does my life have zero meaning if I don't have a job? Is finding some magical intersection really the best way to find your life purpose? Let's find out. So, where does this Ikigai Venn diagram even come from? The first English appearance of the diagram is from a 2014 blog post by Mark Wynn called "What is your Ikigai?" In the post, Mark explains what Ikigai means, and he shows us this diagram. He goes on to talk about how to use the diagram and where he found the inspiration to use the word Ikigai. He references this TED Talk from 2009 about people who live to be 100. Let's listen to a clip from that TED Talk.
For this 102-year-old woman, her Ikigai was simply her great-great-great-granddaughter. Two girls separated in age by 101 and a half years.
So this Japanese lady's Ikigai, her reason for waking up in the morning, is to love her great-great-great-grandchild. Does that work with our diagram? Is this something that she loves? Well, yeah, she loves her great-great-great-grandchild. Is she good at it? I'm gonna give her the benefit of the doubt and say, yeah, I think she's probably good at loving her great-great-great-grandchild. She's had practice with a lot of children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren and great-great-grandchildren. I'm going to say that she's good at loving this child. Does the world need it? Debatable. The world does need more love, but I think this child would be okay if it never had a great-great-great-grandmother. Can you get paid for it? Well, I don't know. Come on, lady. It looks like you don't really have Ikigai. You got to get paid for stuff. If you keep digging on the origins of this Venn diagram, you can find this interview with Mark Wynn.
I'd seen this diagram on purpose, a Venn diagram and stuff, and I'd read, wouldn't it be a good idea to join these two concepts together, which is this Venn diagram on how you find purpose, and this old Japanese concept of a good life and a reason of being. I literally changed one word on a Venn diagram and posted a blog post about how you find your Ikigai.
And if you look for the origins of that Venn diagram, you find that it's from Spanish astrologer Zuzunaga Andres. I don't speak Spanish, but this diagram looks pretty familiar. Now, I'm not here to bash on Mark Wynn for taking one concept and mixing it with another. That's called creativity. I love that kind of thing. But you have to understand that the entire Western conception of Ikigai comes from a Western blogger who took a Spanish astrologer's diagram and replaced a word. There's no magical Japanese wisdom here. If we're going to talk about Ikigai and life purpose, I think it's important to understand where these ideas come from. So, even if the origins of this diagram are a little shaky, maybe it's still useful. Tens of millions of people have read this blog and seen this diagram and shared it, so maybe there's something there, right? Well, I don't think so, at least not in the way that it's framed. I think the Ikigai Venn diagram is harmful. I've got two big problems with this diagram. One is that it's difficult to find an overlap like this. I think it's even difficult to find two things that overlap. The diagram itself is just not that actionable. If you're poor, the diagram tells you to just find something you can get paid for. If you hate your job, the diagram tells you to find something that you love. And until you can find that stuff, in the meantime, you're just supposed to suffer, I guess? Which brings me to my second reason why I don't like this diagram, which is it makes you feel bad. The diagram makes it look like you can't have life purpose unless you find this magical intersection. I haven't found my Ikigai yet, so I can't have Ikigai. I can't have life purpose. I can't have a reason for getting up out of my bed. It perpetuates this horrible idea that you won't be happy until you find the one thing that will make your life amazing. This is the passion fallacy, and it perpetuates our society. Nearly all marketing is framed in this way to make it look like, hey, you aren't going to be a happy person until you find this one thing. Your family won't love you unless you buy this new car. You won't get the girl of your dreams unless you drink our beer. You won't be an organized person until you buy my digital productivity coach. This passion fallacy is so pervasive that it leaks into our very ideas of what it means to have life purpose. We have to find the magical Venn diagram overlap, otherwise we can't be happy. Even if you do manage to find an overlap of some of these, which are already hard enough to find, the diagram makes you feel bad about it because it's not quite good enough. If you love tennis and you're pretty good at it, but you're not good enough to get paid for it, the diagram makes you feel bad for enjoying tennis. And I'm sure that all of us know someone who took a passion of theirs, maybe it's art or music, and turned it into a job and discovered that they hated this thing that they were passionate about. That's a real shame. I really dislike that the diagram makes you feel bad for not finding the perfect overlap. To me, the Western understanding of Ikigai is like the chicken McNugget of self-help. Take these 4 aspects of life, blend them all together into this homogeneous pink glop, deep fry it, and then sell it as your life purpose. Are chicken McNuggets delicious? Yes. Are they fulfilling? Probably not. I'd like to think that we can do better. So let's do some digging. Ikigai is a Japanese word. Maybe let's ask some Japanese people. Here's Japanese philosopher Ken Mogi on what he thinks about this popular Venn diagram.
There was this diagram circulating in the world about Ikigai, but for a Japanese person that didn't really strike as authentic. Although it was certainly helpful, it was not really something that would express the genuinely Japanese intuition about Ikigai.
Ken Mogi wrote a book on Ikigai called The Little Book of Ikigai. And on the first page, he lists 5 pillars of Ikigai. These are starting small, releasing yourself, harmony and sustainability, the joy of little things, and being in the here and now. When I look at these 5 pillars, I don't see anything that's on this Venn diagram. And that's because Ikigai, or reason for being, is made up of all of these things.
Many people equate Ikigai with the cross-section of these 4 categories. However, that is not the Ikigai that we Japanese think about. Ikigai is all of these things. All of this is Ikigai. That's the beauty of it.
Instead of waiting around for some magical overlap to tell you what to do with your life, you can have Ikigai right now. That's the message that Ken Mogi wants to share. Instead of an overlap, our Ikigai can come from a combination of all of these different aspects of our life. Simple things in life, our aspirations and dreams and goals, our community, gratitude for life, flow states, all of these things add up to make Ikigai.
僕の場合だったら例えば朝起きてコーヒーを飲んでチョコレート食べてでもう生きがいですよね。それからブログ書きますよね。人生相談やってるんでそれの回答を書く。これも生きがいですよね。食事するのも生きがいですよね。人に会うのも生きがいですよね。僕はおそらく1日を100ぐらいの小さな生きがいでつなげてるんじゃないかなって気がしますけど、そうすると1日が持続可能でずっと同じものになっていくんですよね。
So rather than thinking about Ikigai like this chicken McNugget, think about it like a salad. You put together all these little things, all these parts of your life, mix them together, and you get something much more wholesome. If you hate salads, call it a burrito. It's the same idea. Put the things that you love all together, wrap them up in a nice tortilla, live your life. Let's wrap up this metaphorical burrito. The Ikigai Venn diagram is popular for a few reasons. It takes this super complicated idea of life purpose and it wraps it up into a simple, easy to understand diagram. The Ikigai label adds a splash of, Eastern philosophy. That's kind of like Haagen-Dazs. It sounds like a fancy European ice cream until you realize that Haagen-Dazs is a totally made up word and it's okay ice cream. And the Venn diagram fits well with this purpose fallacy that perpetuates our society. I'm not here to bash on Mark Wynn or anyone who finds this diagram helpful. If you find it helpful, that's great. I'm not going to stop you. But if you've ever looked at this diagram and felt bad, or thought that you couldn't get your life going until you found the perfect overlap, I want you to know that there are other options for finding your life purpose. I'm personally a lot happier using Ken Mogi's version of Ikigai. I may not have found the perfect Venn diagram overlap to run my life, but I can have Ikigai right now, in my day-to-day activities, in my larger life aspirations, and in everything that makes up my life. When I get old and retire, or if I get laid off, I can still have Ikigai without getting paid for it. And when I find things that I love or things that I'm good at, I can be happy about finding those things, and they can add positively to my life instead of making me feel bad for not finding the perfect overlap. Have you found your Ikigai yet? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, you might like this video about default actions, or this video that YouTube thinks you'll like. See you next time.